The morning sun poured its golden light over a quiet suburban street, where rows of houses stood lined with neatly trimmed lawns. The world seemed calm, but in the middle of that street stood a young girl, no older than 9, clutching a baby tightly against her chest. Her small hands trembled as she held onto the fragile little life, her eyes wide and filled with both fear and determination. She looked like a child forced too early into a role far heavier than her tiny shoulders could bear. What stunned everyone was not just the sight of her holding an infant, but what unfolded just seconds later, something that would shake the hearts of everyone present and leave an entire community changed forever. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the extraordinary loyalty of animals, please take a moment to like this video, share it with others, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to Pawsitive Tales. Your support helps us bring more heart-touching stories like this to life. The girl's name was Emily. Her face carried the faint traces of dirt, and a faded bruise marked her cheek, evidence of hardships no child should endure. The baby in her arms was her younger brother, just 6 months old, wrapped in a worn blanket that looked far too thin for the cool breeze of that morning. Emily's eyes darted around as if searching for safety, but what stood out most was the determined way she pressed her lips together, refusing to cry even when her small arms began to ache from carrying the baby for so long. She had already cried enough nights in silence, now she had no more tears left to give. Behind her, a police officer slowly approached, his boots echoing on the pavement. His hand rested on the leash of a German Shepherd, a canine officer named Rex. The dog's ears were perked, his nose twitching as if sensing something urgent in the air. The officer expected Emily to hand the baby over immediately, but something in the child's expression made him pause. Emily didn't back away out of fear of the police, no, her fear was deeper, tied to something or someone else. She clung to the baby as though giving him up meant losing the last piece of family she had left. The people who had gathered nearby whispered in shock. Why was a little girl carrying a baby on the street all alone? Where were their parents? What could possibly have driven them to such a desperate place? Before anyone could answer, Rex suddenly growled low in his throat, his sharp eyes fixed on something behind the houses. The officer tensed, but Emily didn't flinch, she seemed to already know the danger that lurked in the shadows. The next moment, what happened sent chills through everyone's spine. From behind the hedges at the end of the street, a man emerged. His steps were unsteady, his face rough, and his eyes filled with rage. Emily's body stiffened. She pulled the baby closer to her chest, her heart pounding so loud she felt it would burst. This was not a stranger. This was the man she had run away from, the one who had made her life a daily battle between fear and survival. Her father. A man consumed by his own darkness, whose heavy hands and cruel words had turned Emily's childhood into a nightmare. She had run, carrying her baby brother in the dead of night, hoping the world outside might be kinder than the walls she left behind. The officer instinctively stepped forward, but before he could act, Rex broke free with a powerful surge. The German Shepherd raced toward the man, his bark echoing down the street like thunder. The suddenness of it all shocked everyone. Emily's knees buckled as she gasped, not from fear of the dog, but from a strange, overwhelming sense of relief. It was as if Rex had understood her unspoken cry for help, as if he had chosen to stand between her and the monster she had been running from. The man tried to step forward, shouting angrily, but Rex lunged, forcing him back. The officer quickly restrained the situation, calling for backup, while Rex stood firm, never letting the man move closer to the terrified girl. For the first time in years, Emily felt safe. Her arms still shook as she held the baby, but now her trembling wasn't from fear, it was from the shock of realizing she wasn't alone anymore. Someone, even if it was a dog, had chosen to protect her. From that moment, everything began to change. Emily and her baby brother were taken into protective custody. The officer carried the baby while Rex walked beside Emily, his head brushing against her tiny hand as if reassuring her that she wasn't invisible anymore. Social workers, neighbors, and even strangers who had heard the story began to rally around them. But Emily found it hardest to trust. Years of hurt had built walls around her heart, and even when kind people offered her food, clothes, or a safe bed, she still clung to the baby tightly at night, whispering that she would never let anyone take him away. The one she slowly began to trust was Rex. Every time she felt herself about to break, she would look into his calm, steady eyes and find the courage to hold on. He became her anchor in a world that felt uncertain. She would sit beside him for hours, her baby brother asleep in her arms, while Rex lay quietly beside her, his warmth reminding her that family could be found in unexpected forms. Sometimes she would lean against him and whisper secrets she couldn't tell anyone else, secrets of the nights she had cried in silence, of the bruises hidden under long sleeves, of the fear that never seemed to leave her. And though Rex never spoke a word, his presence gave her the strength to finally believe that healing was possible. Days turned into weeks, and the bond between Emily, her baby brother, and Rex only grew deeper. The police department noticed how Rex seemed unusually attached to the siblings, often refusing to leave their side. Eventually, they allowed Emily to visit the station regularly, where Rex would greet her with wagging tail and soft eyes. For the first time, she laughed, a sound so rare and fragile it brought tears to the eyes of those who heard it. Slowly, the cracks in her heart began to mend. But life was not done testing her. One evening, as Emily was being walked back to her foster home, a sudden commotion erupted on the street. A car screeched to a halt, and out stepped the same man she had once feared. He had found her again, his anger burning hotter than ever. Emily froze, clutching the baby, her body paralyzed. Before anyone could move, Rex bolted forward, placing himself directly between Emily and the man. His growl was deeper this time, his stance unshakable, his body like a shield. The man tried to push past, but Rex lunged, knocking him to the ground. Officers swarmed in seconds, pulling the man away in handcuffs, while Emily fell to her knees sobbing, not from fear, but from overwhelming gratitude that someone, for once, had fought for her instead of against her. That night, Emily whispered to her baby brother as he slept, "We're safe now, we're really safe." And deep in her heart, she knew she owed that safety to Rex, the dog who had not just protected her, but also taught her the meaning of unconditional loyalty. Months later, Emily stood in a courtroom with her baby brother in her arms. She was small, fragile, and her voice trembled, but she spoke the truth bravely about what she had endured. Rex, though not allowed inside, waited patiently outside the courthouse doors. And when Emily stepped out, tears in her eyes but freedom finally in her grasp, Rex greeted her with a joyful bark, as if to say he had been waiting for this moment all along. Her father was sentenced, her future was handed into loving foster care, and Rex remained a permanent part of her life. Though he still belonged to the police force, his bond with Emily was so strong that he was often placed on cases that allowed him to stay near her. To Emily, he wasn't just a police dog, he was her guardian, her friend, and her proof that even in the darkest times, light could find its way through. And so, the girl who once stood trembling in the street with a baby in her arms found a family she never expected, not just through kind strangers, but through the unwavering heart of a dog who refused to let her face her battles alone. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to Pawsitive Tales. Stories like Emily's remind us of the power of love, loyalty, and second chances. Your support helps keep these stories alive. Special request, in the comments below, share what this story made you feel. Did Rex's loyalty move you? Do you believe animals have the power to heal human hearts? We would love to hear your thoughts.